Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast powered by Riverwind Casino. My name is Brandon Drum. I'm here with Parker Thune. It is football time in Oklahoma. Oh my goodness.
Well, it's practice.
Spring football
Doesn't
time
quite hit the same when you don't have a spring game.
Yeah, that is very true. Sorry about that, fans. I really hate that for you guys. As you guys who watched our live, watched me rant on that. But yeah, it is football time. We get to go watch practice this afternoon. We got to meet with Jim Nagy. We got to meet with Brent Venables. We got to meet with John Mateer. We got to meet with all the new transfers and the new high school players on the roster yesterday. It was a really fun day for us. Lots of content on our YouTube, obviously. Lots of content on OU Insider, obviously. And there's some really good stuff. Some interesting quotes that we haven't really discussed, but I don't even think on OU Insider a whole lot. And there's things that we want to discuss here because it's really hard to, I guess, verbalize it or in written form exactly, our thoughts on certain things sometimes. So we're going to do that here for you guys. We're going to break down some spring. We're going to break down things we're watching this spring, just things that stood out to us yesterday, all of that right here. But first, we want to thank our sponsors.
That we do, starting with our presenting sponsor, Riverwind Casino. And Sooner fans, you deserve the ultimate gaming experience. Riverwind Casino has been the Metro's premier gaming destination for almost 2 decades now, with over 2,800 electronic games, table games, bars and dining options, plus the best live music in the Metro. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Also, want to let you know about the work that the great folks at Mando are doing. Now, Brandon and I are obviously well past our dating days, but for those of you that are still on the market, what do you do / have you done to get ready for a first date? What are you thinking about leading up to it? Well, hopefully you're thinking about how you smell. That's a non-negotiable deodorant, right? And Mando whole body deodorant is what you're going to want to go with because it's created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was and how often it was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Now, all of their products are baking soda and paraben free. You can choose from a variety of fresh scents like bourbon leather, clover woods, Mount Fuji, or Pro Sport. The bourbon leather body wash in the Mando line is a favorite of Brandon's and mine. Mando's starter pack is kind of perfect for new customers because you get a little bit of everything. You get the solid stick deodorant, you get the cream tube deodorant, you get the 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash, the deodorant wipes, as well as free shipping. And as a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use code INSIDER at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando whole body deodorant.
Yeah. All right. Man, do we start with Venables, Mateer, Nagy? Like, how do we want to start?
3 for 3 yesterday.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Oklahoma can claim 3 victories to start off spring football.
Pretty awesome.
Can't claim the spring game anymore, although I think it was only Texas A&M that ever actually did that. But plant the flag in the ground. It's a win. First day of spring with the press conferences from John Mateer and Jim Nagy in particular. Like we all know at this point, not to dismiss it or not to take it for granted, but we all kind of know what we're going to get from Brent Venables at one of his press conferences.
He was really good, by the way.
He was really good. His opening statement took over 25 minutes, which was
that is on brand.
Classic Brent when he hasn't talked to the media in months.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Every spring that happens. I think last spring we sat there and we timed it.
Oh, and I timed it this time because I knew what was coming. But John Mateer and Jim Nagy, I mean, we'd heard those guys' voices before. It's not as if we knew nothing about them. But to get to interact with them in the press conference setting for the very first time was really eye-opening because there's more than a little bit of Baker in John Mateer, for one thing. Yes. I mean, when he said the line, people say I got swag, I just play football. I mean, it's like you're listening to Baker right?
Yeah.
That's a Baker Mayfield quip if I've ever heard one. And then with Nagy, man, he came off and look, I know there were people on Twitter saying, well, he's a self-serving narcissist. He's a prick. And I do understand that in the personnel world, Jim Nagy is a very polarizing figure, as I've come to understand it. There are people that love him, there are people that hate him. The people that hate him, I guess, think he's arrogant, which is natural when you're in the business of evaluating football players, right? Differences of opinion are
Definitely
going to
didn't think he
lead.
came off arrogant.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah.
going to lead to some butting of heads. But Jim Nagy came off yesterday as super sincere, super personable, super likable. I thought it was a very cool little detail that he addressed every single one of the media members by name when they
Hmm.
asked him questions. You know, that's one of those little things that if you're a reporter and you've been to zillions of things over the years, you take note of because it's different and it humanizes all of the people in that scrum. And Jim Nagy did an excellent job of that. Did an excellent job of laying out his vision as much so as he could for what Oklahoma football is going to be as they move toward a more professional model. And I thought it was great to hear him say, look, in our evaluation process, I'm not going to go over Brent's head with any
Yep.
players, and he's not going to go over mine. We're not going to bring in my guys. We're not going to bring in his guys. We're going to bring in Oklahoma guys. And there's enough guys in the talent pool, both at the high school level and in the transfer portal, that if we do have differing opinions, there are going to be dudes that we can go find common ground on.
Yep.
That's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, he was awesome. I first and foremost, I thought the little anecdote story between with him and Tom Wolfe and where you're talking about that ideology came from, and he said he was driving him to the airport, and he said he looked over at him and says, "Look, man, like you never force a player down a coach's throat because it never works." And he said, "I've been at places that tried to do that later on in my career, and it didn't work. Just like Tom Wolfe said it wasn't going to do." And Tom Wolfe is one of the all-time great general managers, right, in NFL history. So, like, he has been under some really, really big time general managers, some big time front offices. He's learned a lot. He understands. Now, obviously, and he touched on this. He said there's some differences between the college and the NFL game and how you scout and what you're looking for and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, he said it's football. And that's what he's scouting for is football. And they're going to find guys to win ball games, he said. Like, and I thought I love that. People can call it arrogant. People can call it overconfidence. He he's telling you he's going to try to make sure OU wins. Like, if you're a fan, that shouldn't bother you. That should, pique your interest, perk your ears up a little bit. You should be excited about somebody coming in there with that type of swagger and that type of confidence saying, look, what happened last year, I don't want to see happen again. And we're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I'm really intrigued, like his connections. And he talked about his connections, Parker, multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
When that spring portal window opens up here in what, 5 weeks? When that thing opens up, 6 weeks, I I have a funny feeling it's going to be game on for Oklahoma, and he is going to land somebody that Oklahoma notoriously may not. Be, and I'm not trying to predict that. I just have a gut feeling. So, um, I loved everything that he said. I thought it was well thought out, and like we told you guys, Drew Hill probably going to be his right hand man. And I talked to people yesterday. Sounds very promising that he is going to be up there on the perch of um, mainstays in, a Jim Nagy front office for Oklahoma, and rightfully so with his background in NFL, his
Mm-hmm.
background in scouting college, and knowing with his dad and his connections in the NFL. So like this is a good thing. Like everything is a good thing when around Jim Nagy, at least so far.
There was a common theme yesterday in those press conferences, and it was kind of the theme of swagger, right? You mentioned it with Jim Nagy, but obviously it was present with John Mateer. There's just, and
100%. Yeah.
it's not an overzealous cockiness, but it's a confidence in his own abilities and acceptance of the challenge at hand at Oklahoma. And look, you get around to Brent Venables' press conference, you even saw that same theme repeated because Brent Venables might have dropped the line of the day when he said, "Why am I calling the defense? Because I'm good at it." Like, yeah, you
That
are.
was baller.
Yeah, come
Yeah.
on.
Yep.
That's the type of thing you love to hear from your head coach in year four. I mean, I don't know if Brent Venables has ever said anything that sounds or comes off quite like that before in his
He has
tenure as
not.
OU's head football
Mm-mm.
coach. I mean, I respect the willingness to just go ahead and call a spade, even if it might come off as arrogant to some people. I mean, it's the truth, right? Brent Venables is really freaking good at calling defense.
Hmm.
He's really good at coaching defense. And I I think when we go back to the Jim Knowles saga, during Oklahoma's pursuit of Jim Knowles to be their defensive coordinator, which obviously didn't wind up happening. He went to Penn State, right? But the conversation that we were having all throughout the duration of OU's pursuit of Knowles was this is going to enable Brent to be a CEO, right? This is going
Hmm.
to enable him to go hands off in a football sense and focus on the big picture. Well, I think the way this is all aligned now, how everything has come together, might even be a better circumstance
Yeah.
because Brent's a ball coach, man. Brent is a ball coach, and as it's been reiterated to me by numerous people, not just recently, but over the years in the program, he's got to be involved. He's got to be hands on. He doesn't really
Hmm.
have it in him, and that was going back to
That was
the
the question. Could he
yeah
do
that
it?
that was the question was okay
Yeah.
if you bring in a guy like Knowles, can BV go hands off? Well, at
Hmm.
this point, he's gonna be hands on as the defensive coordinator in addition to the head football coach, and he's going to have the most active role in scheming and game planning and obviously calling the defense. And it's Jim Nagy, your new general manager, that's going to be able to focus on the big picture stuff and take some of those responsibilities off Brent Venables' shoulders. And
Hmm.
so if you had brought in Jim Knowles, there was weight coming off of Venables' shoulders. You bring in Jim Nagy, there's weight coming off of Brent Venables' shoulders. It's different weight, certainly. But the common denominator, right, is that life gets easier for him as a head coach in terms of the things he has to manage, the things he has to
Yeah.
oversee in 2025 and beyond. And Nagy talked about that yesterday. He said, look, why on earth should Brent Venables be negotiating contracts? A coach shouldn't have to do that. And he's right. In this day and age, like what I get it's part of the game and somebody's got to be negotiating contracts, but what coaches at any level are in those meeting rooms having those discussions? It just it doesn't happen. And Nagy said the first order of business at Oklahoma while he's the general manager is to just get more people in the building, get more people in the front office, make
Hmm.
sure that nobody's overextended, make sure that everybody can kind of focus in on the specific role that not only they're assigned to, but is going to best suit the bigger picture, the football program holistically. And so for Brent Venables to just kind of get to drill down and sit in those meeting rooms and draw up schemes as he's so good at doing and get out there on the practice field and coach the guys up and not to have to worry about all of the red tape on like as far as the conversations with the agent goes or on the contractual level. I think that as much as we wanted to believe that Jim Knowles was the best case scenario for Oklahoma, I think from a practical standpoint, this might be better.
Yeah. In a perfect world, it would still been pretty interesting to see if they really were trying to get Jim Nagy at the time, along with Jim Knowles, and obviously they went 1 for 2. That's cool. That's still really good, considering who they were going after. They were big game hunting, and they came away with a 16-point buck in one end and went away empty-handing, missing the other one. It is what it is, but I it would have been interesting to see Jim Knowles, Jim Nagy, Brent Venables, Kevin Wilson. Like you're talking about just some freaking football geniuses, and you have the Bill Bedenbows of the world, um, the Brandon Halls of the world. I'm trying to think everybody that's called plays. Um, Obviously, who am I missing here? That's called plays for on OU staff right now, Parker.
On either side or just on defense?
On defense, I guess in particular.
On
They just
defense.
hire.
Well, there's Dreiling and there's Wes
Yeah,
Goodwin.
Nate
Yeah.
Dryling. Yeah, Nate Dryling.
Yeah. And then obviously you
Um,
got, if you want to expand that conversation beyond the on-field staff and broaden it, you have Kevin Wilson
yeah, I named Kevin
with the
Wilson just a second
with the
ago. Yeah,
offensive staff who has called plays and obviously has done it at a very high level for years and years and years. So the play calling experience runs deep on
yeah,
Oklahoma staff on
yeah.
both sides.
So my point is that it would have just been an amazing assortment of just knowledge with front office and football knowledge with the play callers and the former head coaches and all that are on staff. It's and Wes Goodwin obviously or yeah, Wes Goodwin is another one that he obviously did a really good job of cleaning. I mean, Venables went on and on about Wes, by the way, when he
Yeah,
first opened
he
up. Like
confirmed he tried to hire Goodwin to his original OU
yes, and
staff.
we talked about that when they were first trying to do the hires. When he first got to Oklahoma, we are like, "This is who he wants at linebacker coach," and then he obviously couldn't because of the situation. But it's just wild how all this has worked out. I'm interested to see how year 4 works for Oklahoma because in a perfect world, this is exactly how Venables kind of wanted things to operate when he first got to Oklahoma. It's just taken a lot longer than probably he expected. And don't I know fans are going to hear me say that and they're going to start pointing fingers at Joe C and all this type of stuff. Whatever. Like I don't think that's the right way to go about that. I think this was a learning process for everybody as the landscape of college football changed. And Oklahoma's coming. And guess what, guys? Fans, they've come around to it a lot faster than a lot of other programs. There are a lot of programs that are successful right now that still are not doing what Oklahoma is doing. So Oklahoma decided, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. We're not going to wait till it gets worse because obviously I don't know how much worse it could have gotten from last year, but injuries did compile up. And if they didn't have them, they probably win 7, 8 games. I get that. I get all that. I get that. But it happened and you were 6-7 again. So things had to change, and it really accelerated the momentum for Oklahoma to move into this new world of college football. So you should be really happy about that. And then on the John Mateer front, Parker, I thought he came off not so much arrogant or cocky, but just uber confident. And he talked about things that we talked about on the team notes where he was talking about getting on to players for not doing what they're supposed to do because he's not having it. He's here to win now. And I think that voice is needed on the offensive side. They needed a leader like that. And I like the story where he talked about the very first day, they just put him in the front of the line and said, "You're our leader, lead."
Yep.
That do people understand how hard that is for somebody to come in and lead right off the bat? That means he did such good groundwork before winter workout started when he got to campus, befriending and being the voice for the team to start, that they automatically said, "You're our guy, lead now." That's huge. I think that was probably one of the more understated statements that he said during that whole press tour. Would you agree with that? Like, I
Yeah,
thought that
and I
was
would
very
also say
interesting.
something that probably slipped by a lot of people, especially because it was at the end, was he said he'd leaned on Dylan Gabriel a lot
Yeah, that
for
was
guidance
interesting.
in acclimating to Oklahoma, which I love, right? Because hopefully it
Dylan was
finally
really good
puts
at
to
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully it finally puts to bed the narrative that there's any lingering acrimony between Dylan Gabriel and Oklahoma, or
Well,
that
he came back
Oklahoma,
and trained
yeah, or that
at
Oklahoma
OU.
forced him out. Like if it hasn't been made apparent by the abundance of evidence at this point that that just isn't true, I mean, that ought to tell you all you need to know. He said he hadn't really talked to Baker a whole lot, hadn't talked to a whole lot of the other Oklahoma quarterbacks of years past, but the guy he's primarily leaned on is Dylan Gabriel.
Really cool.
Dylan
Very, very
Gabriel.
cool. Um, before we do that, let's I want to thank one more sponsor, Parker. And that is Refine You Med Spa. Uh, if you're wanting to achieve a weight, if achieving a weight can be challenging to do on your own, but you're not alone. The skilled team at Refine You Med Spa offers treatments that complement weight loss goals and long-term weight loss support, so you achieve a weight that supports good health and self-esteem. You can achieve your ideal look and feel with Refine U's state-of-the-art practices that offers a diverse selection of aesthetic treatments, providing services that benefit every body shape and skin type. Again, we talk about it all the time. You have mark or sunspots or whatever, they can remove those. If you're trying to lose that belly fat, they can help you. The Monjourno, the I don't know, Ozempic or whatever, the semaglutide shots, they do that male, female. They help you out. There are doctors on hand, on site that help with all that type of stuff at Refine You Med Spa in Oklahoma City. They do a lot of body sculpting. Your girlfriend wants, wife, they want face, they want fillers, they want, dermabrasion, they want all that type of stuff on their face. They love doing that type of stuff. And I know a lot of women do it. My wife likes doing the lip filler stuff. Like we go there. That's where we go. And the reason we go there is because they don't just talk about procedures. They talk about results and they get results. They've also been the number one med spa in Oklahoma City for the past 5 years with 405 magazine. So make sure you call to get a free consultation at 405-849-5391 or go to refineyouokc.com for the latest. All right. Players. Like you talked a lot, I talked a lot. Like what players stood out to you? Just in interviews.
I mean, I knew this, but Elijah Thomas didn't give you much beyond the bare minimum when asking or when answering questions.
No, he's
He's gonna,
very open. Yeah. He's gonna be
yeah.
fun for the media they get to know, by the way.
Oh man, what a kid! And obviously, we've talked about it. He's gonna be a stud on the football field.
Hmm.
Probably will see the field in some meaningful capacity as a true freshman for Oklahoma. But I'm always interested not just to hear from these guys, but to see how they look, right? Because it's the first chance that we get to actually see them physically
Yeah.
since they enrolled. And a lot of these guys look like they've put on good weight. You would expect that, right? Michael Fasusi is up north of 300. I mean, Trent Wilson is Trent Wilson, right? He's
Hmm.
always been built like a man's
Scary.
man. Uh-huh.
Well,
But
I'll
like
talk about that in a
Tristan
minute.
Haynes, right, who showed up south of 170. He's
Yeah.
up to 175, looking more muscular.
Hmm.
Cortland Guillory, another guy that was probably a little bit
Did
underdeveloped
you go
physically.
and watch all of the interviews?
Did I go and watch all of them? No, I
Yeah.
haven't
How did
watched all.
you talk to Tristan a little bit?
I did, yeah.
Okay, okay. I was just making sure. I was like, dude, that was like the first question I asked him, and you're like, he's up to 131. I was like, did you go watch the interview or what? All
Yeah,
right.
no, I
Fair
I,
enough.
I did talk to him for a little
Yeah.
while.
I did the same thing with ET, by the way. So
Uh-huh. Cole
go ahead.
Gonzalez, he was a really fun interview.
Really?
And man, like yeah, it's what's interesting is I think everybody looked at his situation and figured, okay, he's here for a year, and then he's probably competing for the starting job somewhere else
Hmm.
in 2026. Like this is probably just a stopover for him. I don't think that kid sees it that way. At least and look, we can always get thrown off guard. We can always be deceived by what guys say, right? But the indication I got from him was, no, man, like I'm here to compete. I'm here to play SEC football. And
That's awesome.
he said, I hope I'm still around whenever OU gets to play Florida first in conference play. And because his dad obviously is longtime Florida wide receivers coach, Billy Gonzalez. And
Yep.
so I asked him, man, are you glad you don't have to play Florida this year, or would you like to have that intra-family competition? And he said, no, I hope I'm still around whenever we do get to play Florida. So that's a guy, and you look at his background at Western Carolina. broke into the starting lineup as a true freshman, and he was not an early enrollee, right? So it's like he shows up in June, he's starting by October,
Hmm.
which is impressive anywhere you go. Like at any level, to start as a true freshman at the quarterback position is incredibly impressive, no matter how it happens, no matter where it happens. So it's really, really cool to get to talk to him for the first time, kind of hear what drives him, hear him relay the details of his journey and obviously the chip on his shoulder that he carries with him from the FCS ranks. So that was maybe the most eye-opening interview I did was with
Yeah,
Cole Gonzalez. That was a fun one. Um, Keontez Lewis, Josiah Martin, those are two guys that I think are going to be good for the wide receiver room just because the attitude they bring. You know, Keontez and two very different paths, right? Keontez has been to four different schools now. Oklahoma's his fourth school. He was at UCLA, Wisconsin, and then Southern Illinois. Josiah Martin's another guy that he's only spent a year in the collegiate ranks, but it was somewhere else. He spent his freshman season at Cal. But both of those guys, man, I got to talking with them about the overall dynamic in Emmett Jones' wide receiver room. And both of those guys kind of fit the mold to a T of what you expect an Emmett Jones wide receiver to be from a personal standpoint, which is, hey, we're going to embrace the reality that it's not about us as individuals. We're all competing for snaps, right? We're all competing for targets. But at the end of the day, whichever one of us is eating, whichever one of us is performing, we're all going to get behind that guy and we're going to be excited for him. And that
that's
I
great.
think it was hard to see that in 2024 just because of how disastrous everything was with all the injuries at the position. But you go back to 2023, man, and that was one of the fun revelations of that season for Oklahoma was just how much those guys enjoyed playing for Emmett Jones and how much they enjoyed building each other up and watching each other succeed, no matter who it might be that's making the big play or reeling in the touchdown catch or what have you.
Do you think, and that was something that we've talked about before, is the like everybody the 23 was just such a like you saw the videos. Like there was that video where they were sitting down on the bench and they're talking about they're counting the number of touchdown passes they've all caught, and Emmett Jones is like just egging them on, like, and we ain't done yet, we ain't done yet, you know what I'm talking about. And he's got like the little clipboard in his hands, and he put the headset around his neck and just like sat down and just was messing with them on the while they were being recorded. And it felt like last year was just, and I don't know if it was injuries or whatever, that there was this me attitude. And we heard a little bit of that behind the scenes. Like there was some of the players that are gone now, we'll say it, very much had a me attitude. Like, I want my trainers. I want this. I want that. I want to do this. I want to do that. I don't want to rehab at this time. I want to do it at this time. I want to do it at this place, not at OU, and blah, blah, blah. And there was some dissension there within that room. It feels like that mojo is kind of back where they're having fun together again, where it's not, I'm a star and I'm going to make sure that I get my way type deal. That can happen at receiver because a receiver at their core is egotistical, cocky, and you have to be.
I always
The
think of the
same
tweet.
reason why
Right.
corners are as well. They're both the most cocky, arrogant positions you'll ever meet because they're on an island out there. They're winning one-on-ones. They're making plays, and they're the best athletes on the team notoriously. So, like, you got to rein that in. I wonder if that wasn't a learning experience for Oklahoma last year. Like,
I always, whenever you bring that up, and it's true, I always think of the tweet. Typical QB tweet. Love my teammates. God is good. RB tweet. Keep grinding. Tight end tweet. Derp. Wide
yep,
receiver tweet. The enemy speaks kindly and holds a knife.
there you go.
Their
That's a
personalities. They always
yes,
are.
yes, they are. Jesse talked about Javante Gibson and just how quiet he was when the camera was on him. But I had got to know him during the transfer portal recruiting process. So I walked over and started talking to him a little bit. He was great when there wasn't a camera. Like he just sat there and just chatted it up with me. Um, he is super excited about the SEC. He really wants to play Arkansas really bad. He does. And there's another player that wants to play Arkansas really bad, and obviously that would be Isaiah Satania. And I think I know we want to talk about Fasusi because his interview was phenomenal. So was Marvin Jones Jr.'s. But I think we're missing the boat if we don't talk about what Satania said yesterday.
Oh yes, you
Uh,
you came up with. I mean, shoot, that might be the quote of the day as far as the players are concerned.
yeah. I asked, you can go to it's on YouTube right now. It's near the end of the interview with like about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. And I said, look, we've heard that John Mateer is like really hard on you guys, not running the right routes, getting things down right because he wants everything to be perfect going into spring and fall. And, um, Satania was like, yeah, that's right. Like it is. And obviously we heard Mateer say that during the presser, right? Like he openly admitted how hard he is on the guys. And then he goes, Satania said, but look, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. This is how he started it. He said, but look, here's the deal. Coach V is on the hot seat, and we all know that. We can't afford to do this or that wrong. We can't afford to not be our perfect selves every day because we got to make sure nothing happens to this staff, nothing happens to this program. It's on us. And I stepped back and said, say what again? And of course, journalists, you had to keep digging. I said, okay, why do you feel like this needs to be done? And he went on for another minute or so talking about just how intense and focused this team is on not letting things happen, which if you go back to 24, there wasn't a lot of that talk. It was coming off 10-3. It was coming off, oh, we're this, we're that. Everybody was kind of feeling themselves. After this 6-7, it feels a lot like the before the 2023 season where everybody just kind of locked in. And I'm not predicting 9-10 wins or anything like that. Like far from that. I didn't predict 9-10. I think I was 8-4, and I got called a Debbie Downer last year. But I honestly feel 8 wins is viable if this team stays healthy, Parker, and they're that focused and they're that pissed off because I go over to John Locke and he says the exact same thing. He says, "Yeah, we've talked about the hot seat. We've talked about all this. Like we don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen. We want all these players, all these coaches to be around for a long time because we love them. We love this program." That wasn't something you heard, Parker, going into 24. You didn't hear the love for the program, the love for this or that. It was a lot of me, me, me after that 10-win season. I think they got rid of a lot of the problems, honestly. And they brought in guys that are intense and that are team oriented. So I don't think you look at the hot seat quote as like, oh, an epiphany, because everybody knows BV is kind of on the hot seat, right? Like that's not a secret. But the fact that the players are taking that to heart and guys that just got there, with the transfer portal talk and everybody being, oh, well, they don't get to know the program or all that. I think this proves that wrong. Do you not agree with that? Like, I think this proves that wrong. Like, they understand the significance of what this year means for the program moving forward, and they're owning up to it.
Yeah.
Somebody else's mistake, and they're owning up to it and trying to fix it. And it's their first year at OU. I thought that was really interesting.
I think I think it was Malik Hawkins who, to that point, said somebody else's mistake is my mistake when talking about the cornerback group.
Boom. Yep.
Like there's an ownership with this
Mm-hmm.
group. And look, that's all fine and well. They still got to go out and win football games, right? And so
Do you
you're not
think
going to
that
put the
has a lot to do with Mateer, though? Like, just the way he goes about his business and is rubbing off to everybody else?
yeah. And I also, man, I just don't know.
There's good
How do I?
leadership on defense, too,
Yeah.
though.
Well, and
So,
how do I even put this? It's like I think there's a healthy sense of just not knowing any better with this group.
That's
Even some
fair.
of the older guys, man, like
Naive.
they just don't know any better than to lay it all out there and compete, you know? And you look at some of the guys that have occupied this roster in years past, and you talked about the me first dynamic, and that's a real thing, but also the reality that these days you don't necessarily have to have a me first player if he has a me first circle or a me first agent, right?
It's very true.
And
Hmm.
I just think I just think there are a lot of these guys that are here to just play football, man. And what they like about Oklahoma is that they're going to get coached up, they're going to build good relationships with the guys around them, and they're going to get the development components. I mean, I'll go to Luke Baklenko, for instance, which, by the way, he wins the Babyface Award from
I was gonna say he
yesterday.
looks like he's 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you walked up to that kid and he was like, if he wasn't 6'5" and 300 plus pounds, you'd think he's like 13 years old, man. He has a baby face. But
Hmm.
he said, I've been here 2 months. I already think I'm a better football player for having gotten to learn from Bill Bedenbaugh in the meeting rooms and in
That's
individual
awesome.
workout or team workouts and all that type of stuff. Like the pads haven't even come on yet, but I feel like I've been better developed.
That is a Michael Fasusi quote as well, by the way. He said, "I have everything at my disposal, and I have the greatest offensive line coach of all time." And Sean Hutton said the same thing. Like literally said, "I came here to learn from the goat when it comes to offensive line coaching." And the funny part is like the fans at Oklahoma have like this love hate relationship with Beatonbow. The players just have this love relationship with him. Like you don't find very many players that they love. Offensive linemen are so different. Like he comes up, Beatonbow is very brash, very obtuse sometimes, and can be overzealous with how he speaks to. And we watch it like
Sure.
during the practices. We've seen it, but offensive linemen, they love it because they're different. They're wired differently. So like Fasusi showed up. He's put on 25 pounds already, by the way.
Hmm.
He's up to 305. He said he's going to weigh 315, 320 by the time the season starts. And everybody I talked to yesterday said, whether defensive linemen or whatever, they're like, that Fasusi guy is going to be a dog. They're like, that kid is good. Good. And a lot of those times I would do it, with the camera off and stuff like that, just kind of picking their brain a little bit. And I thought it was really cool, some of the stuff that they said. And um, he was a fantastic interview. If you get a chance, go to our YouTube page and watch Fasusi. He smiles. He's so happy. Like he lights up a room, but he is a mean mother scudder when it comes to getting on that field. And he puts on, and he said, I'm way better than I was when I got here. Exactly what you said, Parker. Way better. He goes, from the training facility to everything. I got everything that I need and I love it here. Like this is where my heart was all the time. Everybody wanted me to be somewhere else and I wanted to be at Oklahoma. His family wanted him at Oklahoma. He's just talking in a general sense. But
Yeah.
um Marvin Jones Jr. was another really interesting one because he's been to Georgia. He's been to the top of the mountain, right? He won a national title as a freshman. He went to Florida State and he
And
and
they
he didn't.
sucked.
Yeah, and he hated it. He hated that I brought it up. Like I've known him for 6 years now, 7 years now, and so he was really open to me, and I could tell that he got kind of a little. Well, he kind of told me he did a little. Didn't like the question about. I asked him, Parker, you've been to the Peak at Georgia, you've been to Florida State where things just didn't go well, and you guys had a really bad season last year, and he just kind of looked at me like, dude, come on, like, come on. Like, and I said, where is Oklahoma in that? Like, you've been here for 3 months now. Like, where does it fit with you? And like where things are at. He said, I don't like comparing. I said, okay, well, if you had to compare, where would it be? Like, where is Oklahoma at culturally? Where are they at? Whatever. He said, well, everybody has a good culture. Like that culture thing, he thinks a little overrated. He said, but as far as like the talent, as far as where things are headed, as far as where the defense is at, as far as where he feels the offense is at, as far as where he feels the coaching staff's at, he said it. He goes, Oklahoma is so close to Georgia. He said so close, exact word,
Hmm.
so close to Georgia. He said because Venables is an elite defensive mind, just like Coach Smart. He said, then we got a guy, he said Mateer very much reminds him of the quarterbacks they had at Georgia. So, like, as far as personalities go. So, I think that in itself was interesting. And we talked more about it. Like, I took the camera off and, like, we literally talked about it for a minute. And he was really open about just how much he thinks this team is going to be way different than last year's team. And he said another guy that he said Danny Okoye is going to have a big time year. He said PJ Adebawara is going to have a big time year. He goes, and obviously R. Mason Thomas is R. Mason Thomas. He said our edge room is insane. He talked about Shield Knight, Alex Shield Knight too.
Yeah.
Said he's a football player, football player.
I'm telling you, man,
He
like
loves it.
I think Shield Knight's going to do a little something, man. And I, it's probably not going to be right off the bat just because of how deep they are at defensive end. But man, and I know it's an easy comparison to make because, right, in-state white defensive end. I'm not just making the comparison for that reason, but like I see and feel a lot of Ethan Downs in Alex Shield Knight. Like there are a lot of those same traits that helped
Yeah.
make Ethan
It's not quite
Downs.
as big as Ethan,
No,
but
he's not.
or
He's not.
twitchy, but yeah, he's there. He's a football player like Ethan for sure.
Yeah, it's just as far as
I
the
see.
work ethic, the
Yeah.
desire to be great, the willingness to absorb coaching, and the selflessness that he possesses, as well as just the overall athletic profile, right? The thing about Ethan Downs was he was an athlete. He was a very good all around athlete. And the same is true of Alex Shield Knight. Couple other things, and I want to go back to Brent Venables' press conference here because a couple things stood out. Obviously, Jaden Gibson had the setback. We've discussed that at OUinsider.com.
Yeah.
You're not going to see him this spring. Um, However, I will say this: if everything progresses according to plan and there are no further setbacks, his availability for the season should not be affected. And again, we've discussed that already in detail with members at OUinsider.com, but that's kind of where things stand right now with Jaden Gibson. It's going to be a little bit longer than anticipated because of the setback he suffered, but Brent Venables addressed that yesterday and gave us a comprehensive injury report, which was nice.
Yes, he
Um,
did. Yeah.
I I like getting it from Brent Venables as opposed to just reading it on a website at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday evening. So I don't know if I have any power to
You
foment
don't.
some change in that regard, but I will say that is my preference. He said the following players are going to miss spring ball, and these are all pre-existing injuries. So rest assured, it's not as if they're dropping like flies in Schmidt's
Mhm.
workouts. These are all pre-existing injuries, some of which guys played through in the 2024 season. Heath Ozida out for the spring, Cade McIntyre out for the spring, Jaden Jackson, Logan Howland, KJ Daniels, Andy Bass, Javante Barnes, freshman offensive lineman Darius Afalava, and then walk-on long snapper Seth Freeman. He said
What
a
was
few
Alfalava's issue? I don't like. He was there yesterday. He looked just fine
He
to me.
was, and it's something that he was working or has been playing through, has been working out through. Just as I understand, I believe Venables called it a cleanup procedure or something of that sort. It's
Gotcha.
not anything too substantial, not anything too significant, but he also said there will be some guys, obviously like Peyton Bowen, who's coming back from turf toe, and Gentry Williams, who's come back from shoulder surgery, that are going to be limited.
Yeah, Peyton.
Kendall
Peyton
Dolby,
probably won't. It's more. By the way, I'm gonna correct Venables on the turf toe a little bit. It's more than a turf toe. He essentially had ligaments like almost ripped from his bone last year during the season,
not fun.
and they decided not to go the surgery route. That was his family's decision. That was the medical staff from multiple. They got like three different, opinions on it, and it was bad. But he played through it last year. That's why people like why wasn't he punt returning the way that he did, or way that he did in high school or anything like that, man? Because he could only really run straight forward.
Yeah.
Like That's why they didn't put him in a lot of man-to-man situations last year because he couldn't plant and turn and do what he needed to do. But anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry.
One last thing for Venables that stood out to me. He got asked about Mateer and his work ethic, and he kind of used it as an opportunity to praise the work ethic of another player, and that was Jaron Kanek. He said there's only one other person that spends more hours in the
That
team
was an
facilities
interesting
than
comment.
John
Yeah.
Mateer, and it's Jaron Kanek. And man, like I will say this. I know Jaron Kanek has drawn the ire of some fans because he's been out of position at times at linebacker. He's missed assignments. He's missed tackles. I get like his play at linebacker has been imperfect. I certainly understand that. And then, there are some people that are not a fan of all of the tweeting that he does, which,
Mhm.
okay, I get that too. I'm not really sure why it's that bothersome, but I understand. But the fact that Jaron Kanek, who has played linebacker for 3 years at the University of Oklahoma, is willing not only to switch sides of the ball as a rising senior, as opposed to just transferring somewhere else to play
Mhm.
linebacker. The fact that he likes this staff and likes this university and believes in the direction of the program so much that he is willing to stick it out and change positions with a very imminently ticking clock, i.e., 1 year to make it happen for himself as a tight end, as a football player. The fact that he's willing to do that, and not only the fact that he's willing to do it, but the fact that he's willing to, in Brent Venables' words, put in more time than anybody at the team facilities to make his transition as seamless as possible. Man, Jaron Kanek deserves a round of applause for that.
Yes, he does. And
He
I have
deserves to
something.
be commended for that.
Trinae Washington. And it totally went over my head and totally I glossed over the quote when he said it to me, Parker. He said, I said, so you're what tight ends are kind of leading the way? I said, is Jaron Kanek, is he funny? Is he just as funny in person as he is on Twitter and all that type of stuff? And he laughed and he said, Jaron Kanek leads the room. Jaron Kanek's first in everything that we do. He's our leader in that room. He is the guy that everybody looks to. And essentially said that he's probably going to be the starting tight end.
How crazy would that be, man?
No, 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 no. Like go watch his quote.
No, like, and
And and he
I
said he goes first in everything. We are behind him. He is first in everything. Every rep, he goes first. He said, and I quote, Jaron Kanek gets most of the reps at tight end.
and that's true. At this point, that's true. And look, you're gonna have other guys in the mix. Devon Mitchell, I think everybody regards as the dude with the highest ceiling. You got Cade McIntyre when he gets healthy again. Obviously, Caden Helms, the transfers, Will Huggins and Carson Kemp. But how crazy would it be, and how awesome would it be, quite
It'll be
frankly,
great. I will
if
love that so much
Jaron
for
Kanek
Jaron.
broke camp as Oklahoma's starting tight end?
I will love it. So you will not. I've been a big Jaron. I've always said that I thought he had an upside. And I hate that it didn't work out for him because he did. He always had a huge upside. His athleticism is through the. He's one. OU fans,
Like,
I
there's
don't know if
really
you got.
no questioning that he is the best overall athlete in the tight end room. If nothing else, he is
Oh,
that.
not even close. He's one of the top five athletes on the team.
Mm-hmm.
What? He's a fans. He's ridiculous, and I hope with all my being, I hope that he does that. Just because it's his last season, and for him to go to the NFL as a 6'3", 240-pound tight end would be awesome. Would be awesome. And I think at that H-back spot, I think that's where he's going to make his money is at that H-back spot. Do not be surprised if he gets a handoff or two this year. Like, I will not be shocked because one thing we know, he will run your ass over and he will outrun you. Like, there's not going to be very many people that are going to catch him from behind either. Like, he is a 4.4, 4.5 guy. Like he is blazing fast. As a matter of fact, didn't he run a 4.3 when he first got to OU?
Yeah,
Did he
he did.
not?
Yeah, he did.
At 220 pounds? He
Yep.
is a absolute freak. I hope it works out for him. Well, he can catch. We've seen it. So like I hope I hope it works for him. I hope he is everything that his work ethic has allowed him to be, because that'll make my day. That'll make my day. That he is a great kid. He's a great interview. He's a great kid. I talked to him for the very first time. I was actually in Las Vegas. I was staying at the Wynn with my wife because we were going down to my cousin's wedding, and we decided we are going to go early and we're going to stay like 3 or 4 days. And I was going to go see Javante Barnes. And as a matter of fact, oh my gosh, Hill that played for
Jalen Hill.
Jalen Hill played for, you remember all this probably. They
I
just
do.
like randomly showed up to like this workout facility, and Javante called. He's like, meet me up here. I'm going to work out. So I went and met up with him and talked to him. And he was wearing like this Miami hoodie or whatever. And on the way home, Canuck called me. And the very first time I'd ever talked to him about his visit to Oklahoma. And yeah, he was an amazing interview at that point, and like just such a gracious human being that you couldn't help but love the kid. So I hope he does really well. And obviously I love Devon Mitchell. I hope he does really well. I hope Caden Helms does really well. Like there's a lot of guys on there. John Locke's a great interview, by the way. And if you're an OU fan, go watch that interview because Parker, you know this. He's if you're talking about deep seated OU roots, that kid's got him. His grandpa played for Bud Wilkinson.
Yep.
Like this is a dream come true for this kid. So um lots of really cool interviews over there on OU Insider YouTube if you want to go check it out. Before we go, is there anything you're like looking forward to? We get like basically almost 30 minutes today to go watch practices. What are you looking for at this practice?
I don't know how much we're realistically going to see.
I
That's
know it's going to be like mostly stretching. It
yeah.
really sucks.
Expectations. I've learned over the years that you should keep expectations as far as takeaways from
Hmm.
practice number one very minimal.
Yeah,
So I don't
totally
even know
agree.
if we'll really get anything
Need to watch
worthwhile out of
Mateer
it in terms
throw.
of observations. But yeah, hopefully we get to see John Mateer sling it a little bit.
That'll be cool. Get to see Hawk again. I can't wait to see Hawkins throw a little bit more this year. I know that he's had a really, really good winter. Um, I want to see Gonzalez throw because I've heard he's been just way, way, way better than everybody thought he was going to be.
Hmm.
So, and Venables talked about it again. The QB room is night and day different than it was last year. So, a lot of exciting times. All right. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast powered by Riverwind Casino. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube or our podcast platforms, whether it's Apple, whether it's Google, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Amazon, I don't remember, Audible, whatever, go there, subscribe, give us 5 stars, give us thumbs up, whatever you subscribe to us on, please, please, please continue to do that. Helps us out immensely. Uh, Please go to our YouTube, subscribe to that. It's free. Everything, those things are free. If you want the insider information, we talk about a lot of stuff on OU Insider. Parker talked about Jaden Gibson's injury and what that entails, everything that's going on there. We have that over there on OU Insider VIP. We got chat going on. We've got a lot of team notes going on. We've got a lot of just a ton of information for you guys, basketball, baseball, football. And by the way, Parker, basketball won yesterday,
They did
last
win.
night. Probably
How
going
about
to the
that?
NCAA tournament now. How about that? Weird. Showed you how bad the NCAA tournament bubble is, but that's for another podcast. Yeah, all that's over there on OU Insider VIP. It's $9.95 a month, $99.95 for the whole year. And we've got like, if you're an OU fan, you like talking OU football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, softball, like all of that, 24/7. That's the place to be. I mean, it is fun. There's when we say thousands and thousands and thousands, thousands of fans over there on it, there are. And it's constantly it's ever changing on the message board. Boom, boom. You start your own thread. You have conversations with your own people. You don't have to have us start it for you. You get to start your own threads and have your own conversations. We'll come in there and we'll answer your questions. You ask us questions, we answer your questions. We do chats, we do everything. We are so accessible to you guys there. It's easy and it's cheap. It's like going to Starbucks. Literally, a Starbucks drink is $8.99 now. For $1 more, you get a whole month of OU Insider VIP. Literally a month, $9.95 a month. It is great. It's fun. $99.95 will get you for a whole year, and that's about $25 cheaper than buying it for you know, monthly. So pick your poison. We'd love to have you. Give us a chance. Love to have you guys on there. So go to OU Insider. If you're a college student with the .edu, if you're a military with the active duty military, if you're a teacher with a .k or whatever, K-12 or what, I don't know, you're a teacher, email us. We're doing this month, we're doing teacher appreciation in March. You want OU Insider, give us for $11.95 for the whole year. Email us, ouinsider@rivals.com. Email us from your .edu. It has to be from your .edu, from your teacher's account, or your active duty military account. If you do all of those things, one of those three things, we will send you a promo code for $11.95, not even $1 a month for OU Insider VIP. All right. For Parker Thune, my name is Brendan Drum. That's going to do it. We'll see you guys later.